Fortunately, my sister lived in the same compound. And I don't know who called her, but the next minute she was in my house. Next minute we're in the car. Next minute we're in the ER. I had an ectopic pregnancy. Hey, it was hard.
Let's talk about you becoming a mother. I'm sure that must have been so transformative for you.
It was.
Yeah.
I have a sister who's, well, she's not a biological sister, but I have a sister who, till today, she's like, Guy, Rina, your mother. She was just like, because I was just very selfish as a teenager. I was always me. So oh my gosh, yes, motherhood has been transformational. I have 3 fantastic gems that have literally transformed my life, from the decisions I've made, around my time, around my priorities.
But for the first time you became a mother to your oldest daughter, I mean, I'm aware that the first child, your body has never experienced that. What does that look like for your career in time? You see, with the guys, we became fathers, and the next day we still went to work, or the day after. For you, that completely changes your life.
Yeah, completely.
I mean, it does it for the same with us, but I'm going to be honest and say not instantly as it does for yes, and I acknowledge that.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that changed for me, just even the pregnancy itself, just having this other thing moving inside of you is quite interesting, but also very beautiful. And you feel a sense of, I don't know, it made me more needy where God is concerned, because I realized I have no control over the development of this child. And I think the dependency that I had on God was like never before. Because the number of things that can go wrong in pregnancy are in the thousands. Like anything and everything that could happen. By the way, we are walking miracles. Talk to anybody in the medical field. We are walking miracles. Yes, this baby that is in your womb is not the first that has ever been born, but it is a miracle when a baby is born. And so just the realization of all of that, and just the privilege of being able to carry a pregnancy was just amazing. And I think also the other thing that happened for me with pregnancy is a shift in my relationship with my mom. Just another respect and hey, I was like, I can't even explain it. I became more needy towards her. Before I was Miss Independent, I got this. I don't need your help. I don't need your advice. I'm fine. But the moment I had a child, I was like, oh my gosh,
Of your siblings, you're the first one to get a child?
No, I was the second.
You're the second? Okay.
Yeah. So my brother got married first.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think pregnancy changes you. I think parenting changes you. You become a lot more mellow, a lot more accepting. Children, parenting is not for the faint-hearted. And it's a difficult journey, but it's the most fulfilling thing ever.
Did you consciously decide to educate and empower yourself from the parenting journey?
We did. I think my husband and I, before we had the baby, I was still pregnant, we made a choice to go for a parenting class. And that first parenting class we went for was run by the Anzayas.
And navigators?
He was a navigator at some point, but he did this as him and his wife. There. And just listening to them who had children, who, had finished high school at this time, and we're just starting our journey, was like, wow, just listening to their stories about disciplining and, the role of parenting and what the Bible says about parenting and all of that. And the wisdom that comes from that helped us both. Again, we're coming from different families, we're parented differently, enabled us to come up with a way of parenting that was at least in some form and way in agreement. Of course, there's still conflict as we've gone on, but we're not conflict. The fundamentals are the same. So it's just on the little things, then we perhaps may disagree on this or the other because of our personality differences and our character differences. But fundamentally, we were able to form a way of parenting that is the same. And I'd encourage every single person who's expecting a child, if you're raising that child with someone else, just get on the same page. First, understand how have others done it. There's no point of trying to figure this thing out on our own. What have others done to be able to raise children who are, well-behaved, who are confident, who know who they are, and what does it take to raise a child? I'm finding increasingly people or parents want to delegate that role of parenting, and you can't delegate parenting. If you've chosen to be a parent, you have to know that it's a decision that you are making against other things. For example, I can't choose parenting and be globetrotting all over the world. I can't have a 7-year-old and I'm in Addis tomorrow, England the other week, and the US. I mean, you can't do that. You have to make a decision. So for a season, I've made a decision that I have to be a present parent.
Wow.
And that means me letting go of certain opportunities.
Have you said no to opportunities on the basis of parenting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's, you say that with some pain.
Is it some painful? No, I'm not saying, yeah.
No, you are kind of pain. You say that with not assertiveness, understanding.
Yeah. Because the decision was made intentionally.
And it was made pre the opportunity.
I guess I made a decision as I decided to become a mother, that my first decision is these kids. And so if, let's say, an opportunity came today to become CEO of Goldman Sachs,
Yes.
I don't have it within me to take that role and still be a mother, a present mother. So what is my decision? To be a present mother. So even if this thing is like the most amazing position in the world,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but not now.
Oh, now this is a good one. Do you think that the financial decisions that you've made have enabled you then to say no to those opportunities? Do you get what I mean? Because I can imagine, I know people are in different situations. There's some people who cannot afford to say no to that opportunity, and therefore my parenting, even though I want to be a present parent, I consciously understand that this is going to suffer. Not because I don't want to be this, but because this opportunity, I need to capture it. I think of my parents. My mom was globetrotting every 2 years to different countries to, at that time, with her understanding, give us the best opportunities in life, which she did. And I thank you, Mom, in case you're watching this, and Dad. But also at the same time, I know I can't spend, I'm not living in a different country for my kids, personally. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? So with you, I ask, have you think that the decisions that you've made prior to having your children, the financial decisions, have given you an ease and a freedom to be able to say no to this opportunity?
Yeah. I think so. I think that I don't have pressure to have a certain level of income that is beyond. I mean, I'm okay, even if, my salary is what it is right now. We have made certain choices that enable us to live within what we have. And so even if an opportunity comes that is 3-4 times what I have now, I'll not live differently.
Wow.
Yeah, I will make more investments. But largely, we'll still live the same.
That is powerful. And because I do recognize that the financial uncomfortability, it's not even uncomfortability, the pressure, the financial pressure in all economies, all different places across the world, makes people make decisions. And unfortunately, kids suffer. Yeah,
so I think for me, children take the priority. But when I say children take the priority, it's not from a financial perspective.
Yes.
It's from my presence perspective. So one of the decisions, for example, that we made was to put them in because I can also get lost in work. I have that tendency of being a workaholic. I can easily be pulled and sucked into this space. So one of the things that we did when we first found out we were pregnant, we actually made a decision we're not going to ever have a stay-home help. Never. Because when you have somebody who's leaving at 5, you have to be home. Somebody has to be home.
Yep, I get it.
When you have somebody who's not there on a Sunday, on public holidays, who takes leave, 21 days leave, that sort of thing, you kind of have to know how you're going to function. So I thank God, first of all, I have a very present husband. So when I have to work, he's the one with the children, and vice versa.
But he's also working.
Right. So there's times when he can't be in a school function, I'm the one who's there. So it's basically how it's worked. So currently we're in a system where we homeschool our children on Fridays.
What?
Yeah. So I homeschool my children on Fridays.
But they're on school other days?
So it's a blend where it's formal schooling, but on Fridays they're home.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I've had to be home on Fridays.
Have you always homeschooled? Or?
No. COVID happened, and COVID made me rethink a lot of things.
Yes, you're definitely a different person.
Yeah.
And it basically made you reprioritize.
But also recognize what had been happening. Yeah. And, you have a teacher who complains, oh, this child is so, they don't settle down, and then realizing, okay, how come in this environment, this child is thriving? And is able to grasp so many. So there's many things I noticed about my children during that year, because we were home for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, Rina, this parenting thing, this should be a CTA, not on money, on parenting. And I say that with such gratitude that you're sharing some of these things, because I'm a parent and I've got 2 girls, and I've understood now, and I've understood something small like how dropping them in school is a Richie thing.
It has to be.
You get, and that small decision, every Sunday, is a Richie, is like even if Uhuru calls us on Sunday, we're coming with the kids. You get, and I've understood just those small sacrifices, what they've meant. But hearing you, who's got a teenage, I don't have a teenager, it's making me think a lot. So did you take time off work, your career, when you got your first child?
No, of course, it's just the 4 months. I took my first child, I took 3 months. And the 4th month I worked half day. My second child, I took 6 months off. Yeah, I took 6 months off. And I think it was about the same for my third.
Okay.
I think I took 5 months off with him.
Okay. Okay, so you get your first child, you go back. I want to hear more about what goes on after the first child.
So when my first child came, oh my gosh, I remember when I went back to work. So we generally are structured as a family. And there was a book that we used called Gina Ford. Contented Little Baby by Gina Ford. And I was just like, I don't know this thing. I've never parented before. Let me go with someone who knows what they're doing. And so she had a schedule for the kids, and I thought it was brilliant. And so we had a schedule for them, for my first daughter. And so within no time, when she was 2 months old, she was sleeping from 11 to 7. And it was fantastic because I was able to get a full night's sleep. By the time it was 3 months, she was doing 7 to 7. So I could go back to work. So I didn't have that key fatigue rate of, I'm so exhausted. However, where we lived, it would take about an hour and a half to get to work, an hour to come back home. And what time do I need to be in the office? At 8. Now, if you leave at 7, you know how traffic is. I needed to leave at 7 on the dot, and I'd still be in traffic and take a long time to get to work. It was such a... So now what would happen? She's sleeping what time? 7 to 7. I never used to see her in the morning. It was high five at the door with the house help. On the fridge, I've left instructions. I've cooked this, what, use these ice cubes. Whatever is in the ice cube tray is for this. I'd have her food in a little container for the day. And I'm saying she slept well or she had a fever. Make sure you give her this amount, like that. It was high five at the door as I'm leaving. When I'm coming back at like 5:30. Let me just tell you, that thing started eating me up. So I'd spend an hour and a half to 2 hours a day with her. And I was like, something is eating at me. So one day I just told my hubby, we need to move house. I can't do this thing. So he was like, why? And so, sort of did a pros and cons. Again, Excel sheet, pros, cons. And eventually made a decision to move. And we moved right next to the office.
Yeah.
And we gave up this house.
More costly.
So this one we're paying towards owning the home.
Okay.
So we rented it out and moved to a rented home. So we got a house where our rent from this house would be able to pay for the house we're renting and give us something else on top. So that's what we ended up doing. But it was literally, I would go home and breastfeed my second child. And I was like, I need to be able to drop my children in school.
To continue this, we got cut off there a little bit, sorry. Mom guilt. So, I mean, my question I want to say, mom guilt is a real thing. In fact, it's why a lot of people ask, what's the work-life balance? So this motherhood thing completely transformed you.
It did. You see, first of all, I think mothers are supposed to stay home for 2 years. Do you know it takes 2 years for a woman's brain to go back to normal?
Oh, mommy brain is a real thing.
Fully recovers.
Yeah.
Mommy brain is a real thing. And actually, as a baby is growing in a mommy's womb, it's like these brain cells that die. I completely believe this because all this energy is going towards feeding this baby, nourishing this baby.
Yeah.
And your focus, especially once the baby is born, is on breastfeeding and nurturing. So I remember in this season, during my second baby's birth, I was writing the book.
Yep.
Do you know, the amount of writer's block I encountered for I don't know where I'm going next. But it's because I didn't allow myself to just be nuts. And it took another lady, a woman who's my mom's age, to tell me, Rina, you need to recognize the season that you're in. Why are you trying to do so many things? Just be in this space and just mother this child. And so that's what actually allowed me to spend 6 months doing nothing else but just being mommy and not have pressure on myself. And so that was helpful to just recognize that the fog that I have in my brain is part of the process.
You said something so deep, Rina, and I don't want to let it pass.
Okay.
So my biggest lesson for this year is seasons.
Yes.
Ecclesiastes 3:1-8. It talks about there's a season for this and a season for this and a season for this. But she says, recognize the season that you're in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
There's a season of plenty, whatever. Once you recognize the season, you're able to make informed decisions or wise decisions based on that. So fine, you wanted to write a book, but that wasn't the time.
No. I had started, but I needed to take a break for a season to just allow myself to do the work that I was called to do in that season.
Okay.
Which I did. And, I felt, I'm such a failure. I'm not doing this really well. But then once I recognized, by the way, this is what I'm doing right now. It was like, okay, I'll get back to it when I want to. Which has helped me even in this season, like this year, for example. After the passing of my cousin brother, again, I went into a mental fog.
Wow.
I've not been able to do content. And I'm like, you know what? This is the season of mourning. And I don't know how long it's going to take me, but I'll eventually get there and I'll be able to. Why aren't you doing content, Rina? It doesn't make sense as a content creator. You need to do that. I'm like, by the way, those are your stories. When I get back, I'll get back. Right? There's been a lot of frustration in different corners because I'm not doing, or I'm not whatever. And so therefore, and I'm like, imagine the season is not here yet.
Yeah.
And I'll get back.
It's a lesson I only learned this year because I didn't do content from September last year to September this year. It almost killed me. But it was also part of the recognizing of season.
Yeah.
It's why right now, for example, I stopped Stelleni and now we're doing this.
Yeah.
And we're here.
And I'm here. And now I'm okay to do this. Before I was just like, oh gosh. But now I feel like it's okay.
And
Let me
also,
just give my story.
In terms, and you see even the way you're sharing your story, I'm so glad we didn't do it that time the way we did it. There's something you said off camera about the difficulty of, was it your second child?
Yeah, so after my firstborn was born, I think 12 to 18 months afterwards, I was like, I want another child.
It was part of the plan.
Was there a plan? Well, it was it part of the plan? I don't even remember. I just remember I wanted to be a mother by the time I'm 32.
Yeah.
But I was just like, I want another baby. It was just this motherly instinct and that desire that only a woman can understand. It was a deep desire. And the challenge with it and sharing it, even with my friends, was I had friends who didn't have children. And I already have a child. What is this thing you're talking about? You want another child? And I actually feel sad that I'm not pregnant. Anyway, so I realized there's a problem because I wasn't getting pregnant. So we went to see a doctor. After a doctor did all kinds of tests that I would not wish on my worst enemy.
Wow.
And did all sorts of procedures that were so horrible. And I was still not getting pregnant. And then I got pregnant. And it was like, this is amazing. It's 4 years after. And I was so excited and I was just so happy. And then I remember there was a rurashio that we're going for a wedding function that we were attending, and I was getting dressed in my room and I just finished, getting dressed and I was ready to leave. And it was like a gunshot in my belly.
Wow.
I cannot explain the pain. I fell. Fortunately, my sister lived in the same compound. And I don't know who called her, but the next minute she was in my house. Next minute we're in the car. Next minute we're in the ER. I had an ectopic pregnancy. Hey, it was hard and painful and just insane. Hey. Anyway, so the doctor that I saw, fantastic doctor, said, okay, this thing, we'll give you a drug. It's like chemotherapy. It will make the fetus shrink. Because what an ectopic pregnancy is, for those who don't know.
Fallopian tube.
Yeah. The fetus, the egg and the sperm meet and they fertilize in the fetus and not in the uterus.
Yep.
And so what happens, it starts to grow there.
In the fallopian tube.
And the fallopian tube is like a thread. It's so tiny. So that's what happened. And it didn't travel. It's supposed to travel and go into the uterus after fertilization. But now it fertilized and now stuck there. Anyway, so long story short, ended up a whole month of being sick. It took me a year to recover. But what was I saying?
Physically, but not emotionally.
It took me a year.
Yeah.
Physically, I recovered after like a month and a half. But it took about six to 8 weeks for me to recover. But it was a hard season. I was just in a lot of pain for so long. After that experience, ended up having surgery anyway. It was just very hard.
But even the emotional one is still as
having
bad.
lost the pregnancy,
you get what I mean?
yeah.
It's I've learned to watch my tongue around, and it's around couples, because once or twice my tongue way back slipped, and I realized you're doing the African thing and asking guys about kids. You don't know you're not in the marriage.
You don't know.
Just keep your mouth shut, and it's an African thing that
Please
is
say
done.
that 100 times, because I remember I had an uncle who'd be like, what is it? My daughter is now on baby number 4. What is the problem?
When is the boy coming to?
Hey, those things were triggers like you never even can understand. It was for running to the toilet to cry there. Then I come out. Because I'm like, I want this baby. I desire this baby. I'm not in control. This thing, that's why I said every person that walks on this planet is a walking miracle. Yeah. Yeah.
You
even the process of fertilization, that sperm to make it to that egg.
Hey, you are a hero, bro. Just clap yourself. By the way, it's true. If we just understood that we are miracles, we are winners.
We are winners.
We won a race with millions of guys. And then we are here, and even being here, the formation. I remember there's a lady, so Rina, you're an opener. You brought very many people to do content creation under us.
Yeah.
And I got to learn all these different things. One of them was fertility too.
Oh, Anjiro.
Yes, and that's when I learned about just how many, and it's a YouTube channel you can check.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's a fertility expert, a doctor,
yes,
gynecologist, yeah.
And just how many people are struggling with getting babies, conceiving, and it's not just the women with the problems.
Nope.
In fact, a lot of guys have to check themselves. Yeah, and the lack of education around this space. So the reason again why I'm so happy of you sharing that is because you you look like this person from the outside who's got it all together, surviving all of this, but you're a human, like everybody, just
Absolutely.
going through life. And go back into your career. So let me ask, Faida, you've been there from that time. You've not left Faida from the time you joined.
I've done many other things, but I've been at Faida.
You know, you've done so many other things that I thought that you actually left Faida to do these other things. You did them while doing Faida. Wow. Okay. Where under Faida, the growth of Faida, what other, and do you begin rising up the ranks?
I did. I did. So I did. We had an incident where there was fraud.
Yeah.
And we lost a heck of a lot of money. And had to see many people leave. And so I had to step in. And at that point in time is when I became operations director to take over that role.